Welcome to this explainer. Look, if you've been anywhere near the cybersecurity space lately, you know exactly what we're dealing with. We are diving headfirst into the high-stakes gamble of choosing a modern enterprise security stack. And it really is a gamble, isn't it? The market is just absolutely saturated with empty, next-gen marketing hype. It can feel practically impossible to separate the tools that actually protect your business from the ones that, well, just drain your budget. So today, we're going to cut right through all that noise and look at exactly how to identify and implement the technology that truly matters. Right off the bat, we've got to challenge a huge assumption that most IT leaders make when they're trying to fix a security gap. The instinct is almost always additive, right? You find a vulnerability, and the immediate reaction is just to go out and buy a brand new piece of software to plug that specific hole. But we have to ask ourselves, does stacking layer upon layer of disjointed software actually strengthen your defenses, or does it just create a giant, complex web of blind spots? 50. That is the average number of separate security tools most modern enterprises are juggling in their environments right now. Think about that. 50 different dashboards screaming for attention, 50 different alerting mechanisms crying wolf all day long, 50 different maintenance cycles. And yet, despite this massive, incredibly expensive arsenal of software, data breaches are currently sitting at an all-time high. I think it's pretty clear that the strategy of simply buying more tools is completely broken. So, here is our roadmap for today. First, we'll hit the tool sprawl problem, then the risks of weak technology. After that, we'll dive into the anti-sprawl philosophy, secure by design implementation, our tech focus for 2026, and finally, the ROI of smart security. All right, kicking things off with Section 1, the tool sprawl problem. This is really all about quantity over quality. You hear the term tool sprawl tossed around a lot, but on the ground, it usually just manifests as the shelfware syndrome. You know the drill. Companies go out and buy these massively expensive, complex licenses. We're talking heavy SIEM platforms or massive data loss prevention suites. But because their security teams are already stretched completely thin, they only ever manage to configure about 20% of the tool's actual capability. The remaining 80%, it just sits there, totally wasted, gathering digital dust on a shelf. You end up paying full price for a fraction of the protection simply because your team doesn't have the time to manage the whole shebang. Moving right along to Section 2, the risks of weak technology. This is where the blind spots and the chaos really take over. Because this chaotic sprawl isn't just annoying, it actually transforms minor operational hiccups into critical, business-ending risks. The stakes right now are higher than they have ever been. As we barrel toward a 2026 threat landscape, speed is absolutely everything. If your security tools are trapped in incompatible silos, meaning they don't automatically talk to each other, your analysts are forced to manually correlate alerts across a dozen different screens. And by the time they piece that puzzle together, a critical delay has already happened. A 10-minute delay in correlation is no longer just an inconvenience. It is the literal difference between catching a simple warning and waking up to total network encryption from ransomware. Vendors absolutely love to hype up their complex AI, promising it'll solve everything. But the real operational risk there, it's usually just analyst burnout. Your best people spend all day chasing ghosts, getting totally exhausted by false positives, and eventually they just quit. On the flip side, paying massive fees for this false feeling of security just leaves hidden gaps and actual vulnerabilities wide open for attackers to stroll right through. Which brings us to Section 3, the anti-sprawl philosophy. We're breaking this down into 3 core pillars of defense. So how do we stop chasing these ghosts and start actually defending the network? We have to shift our mindset to an anti-sprawl philosophy, which is built on 3 pillars: consolidation, interoperability, and automation. We need to prioritize quality over quantity. This means taking 10 redundant, overlapping tools and replacing them with one unified platform, like an XDR or SASE solution. It means ensuring that your firewall, your email security, and your endpoint detection actually natively talk to each other. To do this, we absolutely have to abandon that exhausting, outdated, manual detect and chase model where human analysts are perpetually playing catch-up. Instead, we must adopt an automated prevent and neutralize reality. This is where integrated tools do the heavy lifting, stopping the threat cold before a human even needs to look at it. Let's look at how to actually make this happen in Section 4, Secure by Design Implementation. This is the journey from a simple audit all the way to full automation. Because, let's be honest, buying the right tool is maybe 10% of the battle. You need a vendor-agnostic technical architect to actually guide you from finding the vulnerability to achieving mastery. It all starts with a ruthless stack audit,
finding that dead wood and mapping your actual gaps to regulatory needs. Then, you never buy blindly. You run proof of concept lab tests and negotiate the best terms based on real market intelligence. After a phased technical deployment, step 4 is where the magic really happens: playbook automation. You build response rules that tell your new tools exactly what to do when they're attacked. Finally, knowledge transfer ensures your internal teams are fully trained to manage this whole new stack for long-term success.
Now, let's pivot to Section 5, Tech Focus for 2026. What exactly we need to be implementing today? If we're busy clearing out the deadwood, our focus has to shift entirely to preemptive technology. We're looking at foundational tools like identity-first security, moving way beyond simple passwords to truly phishing-resistant multi-factor authentication. We're talking about true AI-native defense, using agentic AI to autonomously hunt down threats before they can even execute. And critically, this involves micro-segmentation to harden those internal networks so a breach simply can't spread, alongside deploying API security gateways to lock down the shadow APIs that dangerously link mobile apps right to your core databases. And finally, let's wrap things up with Section 6, the ROI of smart security. Basically, getting better tools while significantly lowering your costs. At the end of the day, this has to make sense for the business owners and CISOs, right? Better tools should inherently lower your risks and your costs. By building a secure-by-design ecosystem, the operational outcomes are pretty profound. You hit zero dwell time, meaning your preemptive tech stops attacks way early at the initial loader stage before they can ever establish a foothold. You also effortlessly achieve regulatory peace of mind. Every single tool you implement should directly support strict compliance frameworks, whether that's the DPDP Act, RBI guidelines, or CBI frameworks. And for your team, it means simplified operations through a single pane of glass, which drastically reduces everyday management complexity. And the financial impact? It's immediate. Just by going through this rationalization process, actually removing the shelfware, eliminating the redundant overlapping software, and negotiating smarter, vendor-agnostic contracts, clients routinely see a massive 15 to 25% savings on their annual license fees. You are literally getting vastly superior protection while spending significantly less money. It's an absolute win-win. I want to leave you with this one final provocative thought. Stop buying tools, start building defense. Remember, technology is only ever as good as its implementation. You don't need a 50-tool stack that no one knows how to use. You need a unified, automated ecosystem. So the real question is, are you ready to schedule your tech audit, stop chasing the vendor hype, and finally turn your security stack into a strategic asset that actually protects your profit and powers your growth? Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer.